So this is a presentation about source code control called Streamline Your Graphical Diffing with QuickDrop Plugins. My name is Leah Edwards and I'm an engineer at Dyson in the UK. So I'm going to assume you know the basics of source code control because I only have 7 minutes. But I'm going to talk about why it might be a good idea sometimes to do a pre-commit diff and how you can make this easier with a QuickDrop shortcut. The tools I'll be using in these examples are Git for Windows and Tortoise Git, but it applies equally to other Git GUIs like Tortoise SVN or other version control systems. Right, so here's the situation. You're working on a particular issue, you might be fixing a bug or adding a new feature. And when you go to commit, you see that Tortoise Git has staged a file that you weren't expecting, which is that some random file that I've underlined there. So what are you going to do? If you just commit it, you might be adding junk to your Git history, or worse, you might break something if the change was an accident, like you just accidentally pressing a button on your keyboard. But perhaps that file is a necessary part of the change that you made and you just don't remember doing it. So now you've got a bit of a dilemma. If I step back a second, it's worth trying to avoid making random changes in the first place. So being really disciplined about not saving unless the save is a deliberate change. So one way of ensuring this is when you see that asterisk that some people call the dirty dot, which shows that you've got a change in your file. When you go to close it, there is a dialog that I didn't know about for ages that will list your unsaved changes. It's fairly basic, but it'll give you some sort of idea of what's changed. And you can also launch this from the VI properties menu as well, the same menu. It's also worth noting that there's 2 types of people in the world: those who might have 100 different VIs open and there's so many that you can't, sort of hard to navigate around and you can't see the preview for them all. Or over time, I try to be a bit more disciplined about what I have open, and once I'm done with something, close it down, and then you're just less likely to accidentally save all. And if you just move stuff by a few pixels, not really worth saving. Right, so going back to our situation with the random file, one solution for finding out what's different is to use the LVCompare tool. So I'm just going to show a short demo now of how you do this with Tortoise Git. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to commit, like what I showed earlier. I'm selecting that file and I'm selecting compare with base. And it's launching the LVCompare tool, which is the VI that is the current state and the last commit. And you can see that it listed the differences there. And when I double clicked, it showed that the icon was different, and the other items that are different, it will circle them when you select them from the menu. It's worth noting here that the 2 VIs are named differently. So the LVCompare and Tortoise Git will automatically rename the base file with the commit hash, which just makes it super simple for finding which is different. I mean, yeah, which one is which when you're comparing. So it's worth setting up this tool just to make it really easy to do graphical diffs. I won't go too much into the specifics, but you basically associate the LVCompare tool with VI and CTL file types and their templates, and there's lots of guides for this online. And you can also customize the command line options depending on whether you want to see every single change or just non-cosmetic changes on front panel or block diagram. So yeah, there's guides out there. Another use case for the LVCompare tool more generally is looking into VI history. So if you have a VI open and you want to know who changed it last and what they changed, currently for Tortoise Git, you'd have to go through a number of steps. So you'd highlight it in the Project Explorer from the OpenVI using Control-Shift-D, and then you'd right-click Explore to open it on disk, and then you'd right-click on the file and navigate through the Tortoise Git menu. And the menus, it's quite cumbersome to use. So I was finding that when I was doing this every day, I wanted a way to make this faster. So for this, I created a QuickDrop plugin, which is available to download from VIPM. I'll put the link in the chat in a moment. So what that does is you press Control Space and then Control G, and it will just launch the TortoiseGit log, a bit like what I showed earlier. I also allowed it so you could show the log for a file or folder by typing the word file or folder, or there's some shorter versions of that. So yeah, do check it out if that's something you do every day. The code is quite simple. It's just calling TortoiseGit from command line. So it's the sort of thing you could easily edit it to work with your version control of choice. And I've open sourced it, so do feel free to either fork it or do a pull request, or just come talk to me if there's something you want to add to it. I'm all ears. One last point is another thing that I use this workflow and tool for all the time is when I'm approving pull requests, because it's really great to know exactly what's changed when you're approving something. So thanks a lot for listening. Yeah, it's great to be starting out at the summit. And if you've got any questions, do pop them in the chat. I'll take a look in a moment. And feel free to reach out to me as well. Thanks a lot.